Are you looking for a kayaking adventure where you could see everything from bays, rivers, and a beautiful little spring? Crystal River has all of that packed into one place. So if you're thinking about heading over to Crystal River, I'm going to go over all of the details starting right now. Crystal River is located on the west side of Florida and is considered the heart of the nature coast of Florida. In the winter, this river is a refuge for thousands of manatees who seek shelter and warmth during the cold days. But in the summer, the waterways are open to adventure seekers of all kinds, and a lot of them. We visited on a beautiful Saturday morning and rented our vessels from the Crystal River Kayak Company and Dive Center. I was able to snag a 2-person kayak just a few days before our trip and selected their earliest launch time, which was 8:30 a.m. One of the great things about getting here so early is that we had no trouble finding a parking spot and were the first ones on site. And since we were the first ones here, we were able to also be one of the first ones out in the water as well. When we got down to the kayaks, we were given our life jackets, a map, and a quick overview of the area before we launched. We only have the kayaks for 3 hours, so our plan is to launch from Crystal River Kayak Company and Dive Center and head down their canal through the tunnel and straight to Three Sisters Springs. After Three Sisters Springs, we'll head out into Kings Bay, where you'll have several areas to be able to explore. We chose to head north and take the turn around Pete's Pier to check out these little areas around here before heading back. One of the reasons why I chose Crystal River Kayak Company and Dive Center was because of its location to Three Sisters Springs. When you first set off, you'll paddle down this beautiful small little canal, which ended up being the most nature-y part of our entire kayaking trip. Afterwards, we took a left turn and went through this tunnel, which brought us over to this neighborhood canal that led us to Three Sisters Spring. Three Sisters Spring is a beautiful little spring located just off Crystal River and is a beautiful little hidden oasis. You can find Three Sisters Spring by following the canal from Crystal River Kayak Company and Dive Center until you find this little opening to your right. You'll know you're getting closer because there's typically a few boats just outside, even if you launch early in the morning. There are no motorized vehicles that are allowed within the spring, but you are able to swim in or paddle in on a kayak, which is what we did. Three Sisters Spring isn't a particularly big spring, but it is very beautiful. There's a boardwalk that goes around it, but there's no access to this spring from the land. So if you do want to swim in this spring, the only way that you can do so is by entering through the waterway. There are 3 main spring heads that make up Three Sisters Springs, and in the winter, this entire spring is filled with manatees. But in the summer months, this is a popular place for locals and tourists combined to cool down in the heat of the Florida sun, since the spring stays a refreshing 73 degrees all year long. The water here is crystal clear, and you can see all the way down to the bottom. And I was able to even find this cute little turtle hanging out at the bottom of one of the spring heads as we were paddling over it. And if you want a chance of having the spring all to yourself like this, I highly recommend coming here as early as possible because it can and will get really crowded in the afternoon, which we'll show you a little bit later on during our day. Since we started seeing a few more kayakers making their way into the spring, we took it as our cue to start moving on. After leaving the beautiful oasis that is Three Sisters Springs, we made our way further down the river through this beautiful little neighborhood that surrounds the canal. As you keep going and pass under the bridge, you'll paddle into the outer edge of Kings Bay. And I do want to warn you, once you make it to Kings Bay, the water does tend to get a lot more choppy because of the amount of boats and other vessels that are passing through the water. But there's so much area to explore from here. But we decided to follow the outer curve of the bay heading north towards Pete's Pier. All throughout Kings Bay, there are all these little inlets and islands to explore, and I was really hoping that we might be able to see a manatee in one of them during our trip. So we paddled down a few inlets, hoping that we might be able to see one hiding in a little cove or something. As we made our way around Pete's Pier, we found ourselves in a little inlet that led us over to Hunter's Spring Park, which features one of the 70 natural springs that feed Crystal River and Kings Bay, and it makes the water in this area really clear. By this time, we only had a little over an hour left in our kayak rental, so we thought we might as well start making our way back towards the rental place. And we wanted to swing by into Three Sisters Spring one more time before heading back in. So we started making our way back around Pete's Pier, heading back under the bridge, but with a lot more company this time. It was getting close to noon, and by this time of the day, the river really starts to get crowded. And I could imagine that this would end up being a lot more challenging to navigate for anyone that is newer to kayaking. So I highly advise you that if you want the river a little less crowded or more to yourself, to definitely make sure to get out into the water as early as possible. By the time we made it back to Three Sisters Springs, there was a line of kayaks waiting to enter. So we wanted to be able to see just how much more crowded it got in the afternoon, so we made sure to get in line. And when we finally were able to get in, there were people everywhere. And it certainly is a very popular destination in the summer, and it was a lot more difficult to navigate with the number of people swimming and snorkeling and kayaking in such a small place. We didn't end up staying very long in our second trip within Three Sisters, so we started making our way back to the kayaking company. Even though it was crowded, Crystal River in Kings Bay is a really fun area to explore, and we were only scratching the surface. I highly recommend doing an all-day kayak or a 5+ hour kayaking rental if you want to be able to explore a lot more of the bay. If you're not a fan of crowds, I highly recommend beating them by getting there as early as possible so that you're able to enjoy the river and the spring on your own with minimal crowds in your way. We were really happy with the kayaking company. They made the entire experience super easy and had a great team and location. So if you are looking for a great place to rent from, I highly recommend them, and I'll leave their details in the description below. If you've made it this far and have any additional questions about Crystal River and our experience, make sure to drop your questions in the comments. I always do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. If you're looking for more amazing kayaking experiences on the west side of Florida, you'll have to check out my video on Weeki Wachee Springs that just popped up on the screen. It's a beautiful spring with crystal clear water, and they also have a live mermaid show that happens daily. Until next time, everyone, I hope you have an amazing day and go out and enjoy some Florida sunshine.